Thank you, everybody. I'm Patrick Kennedy from the Star Tribune, and I'm with Jason Grosz from St. Paul-based Ecolab. I hope most people recognize the Ecolab name, but it's a global sustainability leader, and last year they celebrated their 100th anniversary with record financial results. And in the first quarter of this year, they reported some strong financials to start their next 100 years. So I think when the company started, it was a single product company selling
Soilex.
Soilex, selling carpet cleaners, I believe, to hotels and restaurants. And today, Ecolab operates in 170 countries around the world and in a variety of different segments. And it's annual revenue last year of $15.3 billion, making it the 10th largest public company in Minnesota. As you know, Jason's a University of Minnesota graduate, and he's been with Ecolab for 19 years. So I think the first question I have for you, Jason, is how many employees does Ecolab hire each year? How many employees do you have, and how many do you have to hire each year?
Yeah, so we've got roughly approaching 49,000 associates globally, roughly half in the US, a little less, half around the world. And we hire around just over 10,000 every year. So we end up doing about 10.5 or so each year, of which, again, a little more than half in the US, a little less around the rest of the world.
And as a global company, how do you keep that hiring process and that human resources culture consistent across the enterprise?
Yeah, I had a leader once use this term, and it stuck with me. He referred to things as being glocal, this concept of global with a local twist. And so very much what we try to do. So when I talk about owning talent acquisition, I always tell people I own the strategy of talent acquisition globally, but the execution, the day-to-day, I own the US. And the rest of the world sits in with its market and region. And what we really try to do is create that standard structure over the top, our employment brand and our employee value proposition, who we are as an organization, and sort of the framework of a structure of how we need to hire things or what technologies we have in place, Workday as our ATS, Phenom as our CRM, et cetera, and put those tools out there for folks to use, and then allow the local version of that to be executed to make sure that we're appealing to folks globally in the right way, in a way that they resonate to. And so it's a little bit of that global approach.
And how do you keep that Ecolab culture, though, consistent from space to space? Is people getting to know the Ecolab name more and more now?
Yeah, I think over the last 10, 15 years, we've started to become a little bit more notable and prevalent, certainly over the last 4, as we stepped into the pandemic and the work we were doing with our customer groups to ensure people felt comfortable and confident going back out as we exited from that. I would say it's our employment brand, it's our employment value proposition, which is very much tied to our cultural purpose. So if you look at what we say, we talk about Ecolab, protecting what's vital, and that's all around vital resources, water, energy, et cetera. And then if you shift into our employment brand and purpose, we talk about own your future, impact what matters. And so you can link those pretty tightly together. And we talk about it as an employee value proposition very intentionally, because your employment brand is great, but if you don't deliver on the promise, then it doesn't really mean anything, and people figure that out, and that gets out. And so we have very intentionally always tried to make sure we link that mission-driven purpose of the organization with the culture and the mission-driven desires of our people, and that just transcends. Clean water is a global thing and global need. So all of the things we do are just truths around the world. And so we're able to manage it through just that consistent need for those threads across the globe.
So that consistent approach to the market across the world, people can match their values to that pretty readily.
Yes.
You mentioned the employee workplace proposition, but once hired, what are the growth and advancement opportunities for Ecolab employees, and how do you manage that?
Yeah. So I had to look in preparation for this. So I said we hire roughly 10,000 people a year. We actually promote or move 11,000 people a year. So we're actually moving people more than we're hiring people. So we've got a really strong focus on that idea of internal mobility and movement. One, we have a talent marketplace. So we use Career Hub and Workday. So we are very much transparently trying to build an invisible internal capability and opportunity marketplace for our people. And so we call that Win from Within is sort of the programmatic branding of that as part of our internal programs. So that's the first thing, is you have the marketplace in place, you have the technology in place, and you have a way to facilitate that. We take a very diligent approach to talent and talent management. So we are just now getting into our talent review process. And so we will have our CEO will sit down and he will sit through 13 different talent reviews and hear from the businesses. Kind of what's this landscape of talent? What is the needs? What are the gaps? What are the opportunities? Where do we have people that we need to be thoughtful about and really think about where they need to go and do? And that'll happen down too, right? Obviously that rolls up to him, but you'll do that at all the levels of the organization to make sure that a general manager knows 2 clicks deeper than that. And so we do that very intentionally, which is how we get to that 11,000 people versus the 10 we hire. And so that's big. And then we just are such a diverse collection of businesses. So when you think about the markets we serve, we're in the institutional and specialty businesses, right? Hotels, restaurants, and that space. Then we have the industrial segment where we work with food and beverage and heavy paper and water and energy and data centers and that space. And that's a different opportunity. And then you've got our life care, health sciences space and our pest business. So part of what we're able to offer that I think people appreciate and resonate with is I can stay with one company and I can get very different and unique experiences. Even if I want to be a financial analyst and that's what I want to do, I can do that in very different environments with very different expectations about what we need to deliver and what's being asked of me and what I learn. And so we lean into that. We lean into really showcasing that you can have a career of opportunities within our 4 walls because we have such diverse opportunities within our organization.
Do you think that's had success in retaining employees? Retaining employees is often as important as hiring new employees. Yeah.
For sure, more so. Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely has. We just got our engagement results back this week. They continue to be high. We continue to see strong numbers in that 85+% space on retention, intents to stay, and all of that. Our voluntary turnover, what we call resignation rate, because it pulls out retirement, right? So a voluntary person who retires is not really a bad loss. And so we're running right around 7.5%. And so that's, I think, really good for us as we think about that. So people like what they see. People like the opportunities to have different experiences. People appreciate the growth opportunities that we present. So I think it's absolutely had a positive impact on our retention.
Well, we know that the nature of work is changing, both from the acquisitions that Ecolab makes, and they're not afraid to make some big bets on some pretty aggressive acquisitions over the years, but also the adoption of new technologies. How has that changed the types of employees that Ecolab needs to recruit now to be successful?
Well, you heard it on the last question of the last panel, right? AI, hot topic, so we are very much trying to figure out what do we need from a digital technology perspective. People think of us a bit in the innovation space around chemistries and solutions and products, but we have very much over the last year started to transition more into this concept of total value delivered. So what are we coming to you, customer, and providing you more so than just chemistry and then a person who knows how to use that chemistry, but what are the analytics, the data, what's happening in your either your restaurant or your hospital or whatever it may be. And so we have pivoted to really needing folks who understand and can lean into that digital data space. So we're looking for more people in that analytics world. We're looking for more people who are comfortable in that AI technology space, which is not, that diversity of needs not new, right? When I go back to, we have these 4 very distinct pillars. They have very distinct needs. So our industrial group always wants really strong engineers, people who understand how plants work, understand how industrial environments operate, understand the makeup of a water processing facility and can speak that language. And healthcare, similarly, you want people to understand biopharma and bioscience. So we've always had this need to find these very distinct, unique types of talent. And so this just sort of adds on to that a little bit for us. It pivots us more from that kind of core skill around executing something to this more theoretical space of kind of determining and thinking and processing something. But I would say that continues to be true. It will continue to be true. We are just starting our skills journey. I know that'll be another hot topic that people are talking about. This shift from competency-based or experience-based to skills-based. And we are leaning into that. Our GBS group at Ecolab is going to be our pilot group. So as we build out those opportunities and roles. So Global Business Solutions Group, so your back office, your shared service environment, as they continue to build out their capabilities, we're shifting their profiles to be skill profiles. And so we'll start to lean in there and we'll start to hire for skills here over the next couple of years as well, which will help us continue this pivot as we try to keep up with the changing landscape and what are those skills that you need to be successful.
So in your skills base, does that give the organization more flexibility as a...
Yeah, I think it does. It does a few things for you, right? First, it allows people to coherently advertise what skills they have and what they're capable of in a more sort of universal, translated way. Years experience is great. Don't really necessarily know what you did over those years of experience, but being able to articulate your skill profile, what skills you have, how proficient you are. And it also helps with this sort of AI movement as well. So as you start to try to do matching and what skills do I have versus what skills are necessary, that helps kind of make that all work correctly, as well as the internal movement piece, because then you start to get into that internal, what skills do I need? What skills do I want to develop and what offers me that? So what I truthfully believe is the skills journey will help us just be more effective and proficient in managing our talent, both externally as you try to hire it and internally as you try to make movement more easy and more transparent because you have a map to get yourself there.
Jason, I was hoping that you could share one story back from when the pandemic started. A huge portion of the Ecolab business were shut down, most notably restaurants and hotels were shut down. And Ecolab at that time could have cut or laid off or furloughed a lot of employees, but that wasn't the decision you made at the time. What was Ecolab's response, and how has that benefited Ecolab now that a lot of those markets have really rebounded and come back online?
So you're right. So institutional speaking, probably 85% of our customers were shuttered during that time. Now institutional is a third of our business. It's not the whole business. But then you go to none of our sales and service teams were allowed to go and visit their customers. Because even if they weren't shuttered, if it was a healthcare facility, we all know nobody was allowed in healthcare facilities unless you were sick and or caring for, even if you were a family member of somebody. So we had half of our workforce that was just sitting at home because they couldn't go anywhere, regardless of closure and or other restrictions in place. And so that was challenging and that was hard. And you're right, we made the decision not to lay off or furlough any of those associates. And we actually made the decision to protect them holistically, meaning a lot of them are commission-based. So we took 12-month averages of commissions and we continued to pay them what they would have received if they were servicing their customers. And we did this for 2 reasons. One is we knew we'd have to be ready when things were open again. And we knew we would have no notice because the last thing a restaurant's going to do when they're finally told they can open is say, well, we're going to wait a few weeks and kind of get ourselves pulled together and we don't need to start making money right away. It's fine. So they're back at it day one and we knew we would have to be back at it with them day one. And we'd have to be at it with them in a different way, that having been shuttered for however long it was, 2 weeks, 2 months, et cetera, it brings a whole different set of circumstances and needs to solve for. Stagnant water can breed listeria, and there's just these different things that we had to be ready for. And so we said, we're going to make a bet that our customers are going to need us. They're going to need us quicker, faster, and they're going to need us in a very different way. And we're going to, we're going to be ready for that. The second thing is, it goes back to talent and how do you keep people and drive retention, and why do people stay? People still remember we did that, right? So we still have a ton of people who say, I remember when. And it was a big play for us because it allowed us to keep really talented people who had really unique capabilities and skills to service our customers and have them at the ready when our customers were ready for them. And it's worked out well. As you mentioned the results we've had. Our customers saw it. Our customers valued it and appreciated it. It's allowed us to do a number of things. We've had pretty rampant inflation over the last couple of years. And so it's allowed us to drive our pricing to keep up with inflation and cost of goods. It's allowed us to retain people and make them available, and for our customers to feel valued. It's allowed us to build strong retention. Sometimes you got to play the long game. I think we get so quick to decide, oh my gosh, we're going to get hurt today, and we have to solve for that now. And I think we did a nice job playing the long game, and we suffered for it. I mean, if you listen to any of our investors' calls, our shareholders, our investors, they were getting after us a little bit in 2021, early 2022. They were starting to ask questions and push and say, what are you going to do to resolve some of the cost structure issues? And to Christoph's credit, he said, look, we're playing a long game. We know that these are valuable talents that our customers need, and we're committed, and we're going to do that. And we've seen the benefit, certainly over the last year and a half.
So you've certainly seen the benefit in serving the market, but I'm curious from the human resources side, have you seen any carryover, any additional loyalty from those employees? Has it changed the retention rates at all? Or there's certainly a very competitive job market. There's lots of opportunities out there, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll say we suffered the same impact a little bit, the Great Resignation. We weren't immune from that, certainly. But I will say it was a shallower dip and a shorter dip for us. I'll go back to our 7.5% resignation rate. Pre-pandemic, we probably ran closer to 10. If we're running 7.5 now, I think that sort of speaks to there is this sense of loyalty. I'll say even in TA, we did a number of things through that period. We didn't lay off a single recruiter during that time either, right? So we're not recruiting for anything because we have a workforce that's idle. And we made a conscious decision to do the same with our functional space. So we didn't lay off any recruiters during that time period. We repurposed them into different projects and opportunities and allowed them to build their skills and do different things that they normally wouldn't otherwise get to do, and have experiences they wouldn't otherwise normally get to have. And we also went through a notable blip in turnover in the recruiter space when it came back, because it came back so fast. But from about the middle of 2022 on, our retention in TA is over 90%. So I think those things really do have an impact when you make the decision to conscientiously think about and do the right thing for people, even if it might be at the expense of your bottom line.
Well, it certainly seems like Ecolab's well poised to take the next steps in the next 100 years of their history. So I don't know if there's anything else you'd care to add?
No, just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to be part of the community here that we serve. I know that it's a good partnership of communities and businesses here. So thank you for having me.